everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting yet another reading vlog for you guys. So yes, we are at the start of another weekend-ish type of reading vlog. I don't exactly know how long this vlog is going to go for. Maybe like 4 or 5 days-ish, but it's Friday now, so starting the reading vlog on the weekend. So let me quickly go through my TBR that I'm really hoping I can get through this weekend, and then we will get into the fun things that I want to do this morning. So the main book that I'm hoping I can start and finish in this vlog is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. I have been so highly anticipating getting into this book just because I've seen it everywhere, and I just want to know if it's good or not. I do have really high hopes though, because I did really love The Bridge Kingdom, which is also by this author. I gave that book a 5-star when I read it a couple years ago. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So I've been really excited to get into this one. This is a Norse-inspired fantasy romance situation, which just sounds like it's gonna be a really good time, and I believe me and Cass are buddy reading this. I haven't talked to her about starting it today or this weekend, but maybe she'll be into that. I don't know. Either way, I'm gonna read this book. And then the other full novel that I'm hoping I can start this weekend, I don't know if I'm gonna finish it or not, but that is The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. This is the last book in Mistborn Era 2. I won't talk about how much I'm enjoying Era 2 again, I'm sorry, but I have heard really, really good things about The Lost Metal, and that the end of it is kind of crazy. So I cannot wait to get into this one. I will probably be consuming the story via audiobook just because I really like the audiobooks for this series, so I can listen to that while I'm doing various other things this weekend. So hoping to finish that. And then I do also have 2 volumes of manga that I would like to read this weekend as well, and that is obviously Witch Hat Atelier. Again, I really need to look up how to pronounce that. I will do that soon to make sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'm probably not, but I really want to read volumes 2 and 3 of the series. I started it in my 24-hour readathon. Really liked the first volume, so I did pick up volumes 2, 3, and 4. I'm probably not going to read 4 in this vlog. I'm going to stick to 2 volumes of it, so gonna hopefully finish these as well. So here is my TBR for the weekend. Obviously, we just have some really fun stories that I cannot wait to jump into. Also, speaking of stories, I do quickly want to take a moment to talk about the sponsor of this video, which I'm so excited about, which is Storiaverse. So if you guys haven't heard about it before, Storiaverse is a new app where you can read and watch original animated short stories. Now, as somebody that absolutely loves graphic novels, I read them all the time. I feel like this app is basically just a more immersive way to read a graphic novel, because you have the art and the text like a normal graphic novel, but the art is animated. There is sometimes voice acting in them, there's sound effects, background music, everything you could possibly need to kind of set the mood and really get into it. I also just love the vast array of content that they have available on Storiaverse, because they have stories from all different genres: fantasy, sci-fi, thriller, mystery, all that kind of stuff. They also have authors and artists from all over the world, so any different story that you decide to check out is going to feel very unique and different from the other ones that are on the app. I've enjoyed so many of the different stories that I have personally checked out on the app, but I think my favorite is one called The Kelpie. This is a very short kind of fantasy adventure story that is following our main character who lives in this small town, and she feels very stuck in what her life has been set up to be. So she ends up going on an adventure with one of the town's most feared legends, the Kelpie, which I believe is like a water spirit from Scottish folklore, maybe? This story was so fun. I love the art style the most. I think that was my favorite part of the story. It's so freaking cute. And something I also really like about this app is that they have so many different animation styles. This one was a very charming 2D animation style, but some of their other stories use a 3D animation style or an anime animation style. And it only took me about 10 minutes to read. All of these stories on this app are between the 10 and 15 minute mark, so they're really short, really quick to get through, but they're always just such a good time. And the best part about Storiaverse is that it is a free app available on Android and iOS. So if you guys want to check it out, which I would highly recommend doing so, I just thought this app was so interesting and very different from anything else that I've seen before. I will leave a link to it down in the description. So with all of that being said, let us get back into the reading vlog. So again, thank you so much to Storiaverse for sponsoring this video and supporting me and my channel, and to you guys as well for always supporting me and my channel. Love you guys so much. So now that we've done that, I do quickly want to show you guys some books that I've recently acquired, because it does kind of lead into something that I want to do this morning, because I have obtained 2 stunning vampire books recently and I wanted to show you them. So the first one is something that I bought myself because I've had my eye on this copy of Dracula for so long, and I had an Amazon gift card because I participated in my friend's research study and we got like a little $20 Amazon gift card for doing it. So I wanted to pick something fun something that I wouldn't normally just randomly buy. So I decided to finally acquire this stunning edition of Dracula. Look at this. I'm so obsessed with it. It's got the bat sprayed pages. Like, why did I not own this before? I've been wanting to buy this copy for like a couple years at this point, and I'm so glad that I finally have it in my grubby little hands. But this has these stunning artwork. Sorry, I'm just gonna keep calling it stunning. These stunning artwork done by Edward Gorey. I have recently learned that this is the illustrator behind so many of my favorite spooky illustrations. Like, I have a couple of books that have covers done by him. I didn't know that. So that's just so fun, and I just love his illustration style. Like, look at Dracula and somebody that I'm not gonna say because I don't want to spoil it. But we also have like this end paper art, and there are also like illustrations throughout. Not too many, but there are enough that I love it so much. So I'm so happy to have this. Also, this is a reminder that Daily Dracula does start in May if you want to participate. Because Dracula is an epistolatory novel that starts in May, there's an email subscription service that will send you that day's entry like throughout, I think it's like May to November is when the book takes place. I have like no affiliation with it whatsoever. I just think it's so cool, and that is how I started reading Dracula when I like fully read it in 2022, because it's a long book and sometimes it's just nice to have it broken up into segments like that day by day. So I love it so much, and I believe they're doing it again. I think I got the first email a couple days ago maybe. Or was it today? Oh, Dracula starts on the 3rd of May, and it is currently the 3rd of May. That's so fun, oh my god. I love that so much. But yeah, if you wanna join, I think it's cool. I liked it a lot. So I'm so glad to finally have this. And this also has Dracula's guest in it, which I think used to be the first chapter of Dracula, but it got cut from the final whatever. So I'm just so excited about that. And then I do have a book that was so kindly sent to me off my Amazon wishlist, and that is Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent. This was so kindly sent to me by Amanda, who is one of my lovely patrons. So again, thank you so much, Amanda. But this is, I believe, set in the world that the Serpent in the Wings of Night series is set in, but it's like a standalone. I've been wanting to read this one for a while because even though I don't love the Serpent in the Wings of Night series, I do really like what Carissa Broadbent has been doing with vampires in this series, so I knew I needed to read this at some point, and I just had to get it. So I am so happy that I finally have a copy of this, and I'm hoping maybe I'll read it sometime over the summer. Seems like a fun time. But this leads me into what I'm doing today, because I want to do a bit of a bookshelf reorganization. I feel like I haven't done a substantial bookshelf reorganization in a vlog in a while, so I figured we're all probably missing it. I'm missing it, that's for sure. But I finally, with these 2 editions, now have enough books for a full vampire shelf. And I cannot wait to put it together, because right now I have like a small section that has my vampire books in it, but I now have enough vampire books for like a whole shelf. And we're gonna put that together today, and I cannot wait. I think it's gonna look stunning. Oh, it's gonna be so good. And I will be able to display this lovely cover art. So I'm going to get into doing a little bit of bookshelf organization. I do also want to get into maybe starting a Fate Inked in Blood this morning. After I do that, I don't know. But I just want this reading vlog to be really chill, full of me just doing things that I love and being able to share it with you guys. So I'm gonna get into doing some bookshelf reorganization, and I will chat to you guys when I have finished. small bits of bookshelf reorganization, and I love my vampire shelf so much. She's beautiful. And I also did decide to make a fully dedicated infernal devices shelf over there, which you saw. I love that too. But let me show you those covers that I was talking about by the same like cover artist that the special edition of Dracula did. I lost my train of thought there. I don't know. I've talked about these many times on my channel before, but I never knew who did the cover art for them, but they're these books. Just found out they were done by Edward Gorey. Also, what a last name. Like, to do spooky art. I love it. But we have this vampires one, which I stole from my parents. Obviously, this is mine now. But this one is my favorite because look at the spine. Look at the spooky graveyard in the background. I'm so obsessed. They're so good. I do have another book in that line that's over there somewhere. It's just a bit harder to get to. Anyway, with all of that being said, it is now time to actually get into some reading, and I do want to start out with a Fate Inked in Blood, so I'm gonna read however much of this morning. I don't have like too much time this morning because I do have to go to campus to kind of meet with some people for a group project that we're working on, but before then and after then, I will be doing some reading, and I will chat to you guys later with a little bit of an update. It's like 11 o'clock now, but I did want to give you guys a little bit of an update on A Fate Inked in Blood. Also, before I get into it, can I just say, I love just how this book looks. Like the white naked hardcover with this beautiful blue text and the beautiful blue pages. It's so pretty. And it's also got like this little, I think it's a shield design. Debossed? I think it's debossed. I always say like embossed, but I think it's debossed because it's like into the book. So I have read quite a bit of it. I'm on page 127 now, so I'd say I'm like a third of the way through the book. And honestly, I'm having a really good time. It has been a minute since I have, well actually that's a lie. I was gonna say it's been a minute since I've picked up some fantasy romance because I am currently in the middle of The Ashes and The Starker's King, but it's been a minute, I guess, since I've picked up some fantasy romance that I have been enjoying. Because this book is fun. Honestly, it kind of, some of these lines kind of make me feel like they're having a silly goofy time here. And I feel like they're not supposed to make me feel that way. Because literally in the first chapter, our main character Freya meets who is obviously the love interest. She doesn't realize he's standing there first, but she's like throwing these fish back into the water and one of them hits him. And like her first question out of her mouth is like, is the fish okay? It's so dumb, but also I kind of love it. Like, it's not supposed to be a silly goofy time, but I'm having a silly goofy time. But honestly, what we've gotten of the romance so far, I'm obsessed. Like, I just think their dynamic is so fun and they have just really funny banter. Like the love interest, he is so annoying, but in the best possible way. Like I always love it when the love interest is like a little bit annoying, almost. I feel like that's a weird thing to say, but I feel like you guys know what I mean. Like, he's incredibly cocky. He's very sure of himself. He's always cracking some inappropriate jokes, but like, it's not in a way that makes me hate him. It's like, I don't know. I just like it. I think it's fun. And I like their dynamic so far. But I also feel like the romance is balanced really well with the plot so far. Like, we've definitely gotten more plot than we've gotten development in the romance, which is honestly my preferred structure for a fantasy romance book. Because I feel like sometimes when there's too much romance in the fantasy romance, I'm like, all right, I've had enough of you two at this point. But I feel like when the romance is treated a little bit more so like it's a subplot, I'm like really excited. I'm staying engaged. I'm waiting for the next time they're gonna interact. And I always feel like that element of waiting always keeps me like really into the story and wanting to read more of it. And I feel like this book so far has done a good job of that. As for the plot, maybe I should tell you that. Basically, we are following our main character Freya, who at the very beginning of this book is married to the most just awful man you have ever met. But don't worry, she throws an axe at his head like 20 pages into the book and he's out of the picture. But at some point we also find out that Freya does have magic in this world. Children can be blessed with like a drop of blood from the gods, and then they in turn get powers that are some way related to what that god can do. So Freya's magic was given to her by the goddess of war, so she has like very defensive magic, I would say, and that was really cool to see. But the only problem is that makes her a very large target, and she has hidden this for most of her life. Although it's so stupid. Something I want to bring up. Her father told her her entire life, like, don't tell anybody that you have magic, like, they're gonna use you. But that's all he says. But there is so much more of a reason as to why she should not have revealed that she had these powers, and he just like did not see the necessity of like actually filling her in on all of that information. And I'm just thinking about how all of the things that have gone down in this book would not have happened had he just like imparted that knowledge onto her a bit earlier. Like maybe there's a reason as to why he didn't, but as of now I do not see what that reason is, and I just think it's dumb. But basically, she has been made a target, and there's this whole like prophecy thing that has also kind of enhanced the trouble, danger that she's in. So she ends up basically hopping from one bad marriage to another bad marriage because she actually ends up getting married to our love interest's dad. And normally if somebody told me that, I'd be like, what's going on? But considering this is based on Norse mythology, even from the little bit I know about Norse mythology, I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Obviously, she was not into that concept. She's basically done all of these awful things in her life, like her first marriage and this marriage were both so she could protect her family. But honestly, if you ask me, like her family doesn't deserve it. Like all of the people that we've seen that she is doing all of these awful things for don't really seem to like actually care that much about her. Like on a surface level, it seems like they do, but based on their actions, I'm like, girl, maybe you should have like not done this for them, because I don't know if they deserve it. But basically in the second marriage that she's in, she is a big part of this dude's plan to like become king, conquer all, whatever. So he has tasked his son with watching over her and making sure nothing happens to her. There's a little bit of forced proximity going on. I feel like it was trying to set up like a hate to love situation, but like you could tell they were into each other like from the first chapter. And I don't mind that. I just think they've had such a fun dynamic so far over the course of the book, even though she's like married to his dad, but like it's a whole political alliance thing. It's not in any like serious way. So I don't really like find an issue with that. I honestly just think it's kind of funny that she's married to his dad. I can't get, it's ridiculous, honestly. But yeah, like it's just like none of these things should like make me feel like I'm having a silly goofy time, but like there are just so many things in this book that I laugh at, but so far I'm enjoying it. I think it's really fun. There have been some not fun things happening. Like a lot of people have gotten murdered so far because of like this invading whatever going on. We've had a little bit of action so far. I feel like this book has maintained a pretty snappy pace, and I'm liking that because I feel like just from the first chapter, things have been going on. And I love that because it's definitely felt like a very engaging plot so far, and it also has a little bit of that romance like woven in there as well. And it's not gonna be a favorite, but I'm having a really good time reading it. So I'm just quite interested to see where the rest of this book is going to go. I think it's just going to be a really fast read. I'm hoping I can maybe finish it up tomorrow. Like I'm having a good time, so I do want to keep reading. So that's kind of my general goal. I am tired, so I'm gonna go to sleep. But I will see you guys tomorrow. I don't really know what I'm doing tomorrow. I might do some journaling tomorrow. Might do some reading tomorrow. I might read one of my volumes of Witch Hat Atelier tomorrow. So I might do that first thing and then I'll get into this. So I will just chat to you guys sometime tomorrow when I have something to say, I guess. So it is now Sunday morning, and I do have quite a few things to update you on just because I didn't really do much updating. Well, I didn't update at all yesterday, so we have some things to talk about. The first one being that I did finish a book, and that is Witch Hat Atelier Volume 2. I read this yesterday morning, and I'm just continuing to really enjoy the series. I feel like we're starting to see a little more background on some characters that you definitely have some less than positive initial impressions of, so I'm liking that we're getting to see a little bit more of them. And we've also introduced kind of a new character. I'm not sure how relevant they're going to be in the rest of the series, but I mean, he's on the back of this volume, so I'd assume he's like kind of relevant. But I feel like this volume has definitely expanded a bit more on how the magic works, what they can do with it, the type of magical rules that are in place for this society, and I'm liking learning about those. Also, something else that I do like throughout this series is that every now and then, if I could find one back, they have these breaks in like the normal panels to show you like magical information about like certain items, which I really like. There's another one too about a sword, I think. Yeah, it's like sounds cool too. And I really like that because I feel like sometimes in fantasy type stories, obviously you need to explain what these things are, but sometimes when they try and just put it into the dialogue, like they make a character explain what it is, I feel like sometimes it seems unnatural. So the fact that the series kind of just solved that issue by like telling like, here's what you need to know. I like that, honestly. Very straightforward. I'm a fan of that. So I'm just continuing to enjoy this a lot, and I will definitely be reading volume 3 maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, who knows? There's so many options. But moving on from that, I have read some more of A Fate Inked in Blood. I have made it to the like halfway point, a little bit more. I'm on page 225 now. And this book, I think I'm enjoying it a little bit less than I was for the first like 125 pages, but I'm still really liking it and I'm having a good time. I feel like this book so far has been incredibly action-packed. There have been a lot of battles, there have been some cool fight scenes. Like yesterday, 2 of our characters were in this tunnel dealing with an army of the undead, and I was like, what a concept. Like, some of the descriptions were actually kind of spooky though, because they were fighting against these just like skeletal warriors. And I was like, this is so cool. I liked that a lot. But I don't know if I feel like the plot itself has been progressed in any significant way. I feel like our characters have been going on like some side quest type missions almost, in my opinion. Maybe this does lead into like the greater plot, but right now the whole kind of thing that's going on in this story is that Freya got married to this dude who's very power hungry, and he's doing like whatever the gods tell him to do. Honestly, side note from what I was just saying, I cannot stand this man that Freya's married to, and I know that is the point, but he's just using like the gods as justification for every single thing that he's doing. And if something goes wrong or something like goes well, he's like, oh well, it's because the gods willed it to be. I'm like, dude, shut up, you're so annoying. Which again is obviously the point, but like, they're not evil villains, they're just irritating. Like, they get on my nerves. So I am quite excited to read some more of this and see how Freya kind of gets out of this situation, because obviously she's not having a good time. No one's having a good time. So I'm definitely continuing to like it. I really, really do enjoy the romance. I think it's a lot of fun, and I am very, very excited to see more from that. Especially because it's gonna be really complicated, because she's literally married to his dad. So I'm like, what's gonna happen there? I don't know, but I'm excited to see. So that's kind of where I'm at with A Fate Inked in Blood. I know I said I was gonna finish this yesterday. That didn't happen. Maybe I'll finish it today, or maybe I won't. We'll see. At any rate, I would just like to make some good progress in this book today. And then the last update that I have is a very short update, because I have very briefly started The Lost Metal. I'm literally on page 14, I think. Have not made it very far. I read the prologue, which was a flashback from one of our main characters' childhoods, and kind of seeing the dynamic that he had with his mother. She was like telling him a story. It was really cute, and then it wasn't cute anymore. So that's kind of sad. But I think the Bands of Mourning started the same way, where it gave us a flashback of a different character's childhood, and I like those because it obviously allows you to see a little bit more into how the characters were brought up, and it gives you as a reader a little more insight into maybe how the characters ended up where they were, so I like that a lot. But I'm definitely ready to get back into the current day timeline, see what our characters are getting up to in this book, because I have not read the synopsis of this one. So I have no clue, but I think I might start a new puzzle later today and listen to my audiobook for this, because I love the puzzle and audiobook combo. Like, you guys already know. You already know. So I'll probably do that this afternoon and hopefully read a decent chunk of this, because I've been waiting to start this book, and I'm so excited that I'm finally going to do so. So I'm gonna focus on reading some of this today. I'm gonna focus on hopefully reading some of this today, and then you know, we'll see what else I get up to, if anything. But for now, I think I'm going to just get back into A Fate Inked in Blood. I've been reading a little bit of it this morning. I'm gonna go read some more of it now. So I will chat to you guys later when I have an update about something. So it's quite a bit later. It's like 4 in the afternoon now, and I've been having such a lovely, slow, rainy Sunday today. It's been beautiful, honestly. But I did do a little bit of reading in A Fate Inked in Blood. I think I've read like 50 pages, so not really a lot to report on there. However, I did start a new puzzle, which is going great, by the way. Thank you for asking. I do have all of the edge pieces done, and I have filled it in a bit, so we're making steady progress on that. But while I was doing that, I obviously did start my audiobook for The Lost Metal, and I am on page 155 now, so I'm like a third of the way through the book, and I am so excited to see what the end of this book holds, because what it is set up in part 1, I can definitely get a feel for why people say the end of this book is kind of crazy, because I'm thinking some of the things that it is setting up is going to be very relevant for the Cosmere as a whole, because I love all of the Cosmere connections. Obviously, that's one of the best parts about reading the series. So the fact that it is setting up something that I can kind of feel is going to be rather substantial to learn, I cannot wait. I think it's gonna be so good. But I just made it up to part 2, so I feel like part 1 was definitely a lot of setup, which I don't mind because I can tell it's gonna be really cool, but nothing substantial has really happened as far as the plot goes so far. We're kind of just seeing where our characters ended up after the events of the last book, because I didn't know this, but there is a 6-year time jump between the Bands of Mourning and this one. So I was just sitting there casually doing my puzzle, and they were like, it's been 6 years since the ending of the Bands of Mourning, whatever. And I was like, what? What happened? Actually, a lot. So much has happened in those 6 years. Like, seeing where our characters have ended up and what has happened in their lives has been so nice, honestly, because I just want the best for them. But that was just so jarring for me because I just assumed we were picking up after the events of the last book, but apparently not. Maybe that's something to note going into this one. Something else I'm really liking about this book is the kind of scientific side of everything that's going on. I really liked it in Rhythm of War when they focused on the science that was kind of behind the magic system, and I feel like in this book it is also slightly doing that, but I'm liking this one even more because all of the experiments that we've seen the characters do in this book are very basic material testing experiments that I have learned about in my classes. Like, my graduate degree is focused on material selection. So the fact that I have learned extensively about a lot of the things that Wax and Marcy are doing down in their lab, I'm like, that's so cool. Like, will somebody give me a fun magical metal to do some material testing on? Because that sounds a lot more fun than what I've been doing so far. So that's just a small thing, but I just really liked it because it's obviously very relevant to like the coursework that I do, and I thought that was fun. So that might honestly be all I have to say about the book so far. Just because nothing substantial has happened plot-wise. Also, I feel like Era 2 is so hard to talk about in a reading vlog because not only am I far in this series itself and could spoil things, but also because this is a continuation basically of the first series. I'm like, I could also spoil things that happened in the first series, so I'm like, I don't know. But actually another thing, I just remembered something else that would not be a spoiler. I think another reason why I really like Era 2 is being able to see the stark differences in the world between where they're at in Era 2 and in Era 1, because Era 1 was a very, like, primitive society almost. I mean, that kind of makes it sound like they're, like, cavemen or something, but, like, they weren't very advanced. They didn't have any sort of technology, no guns, no nothing like that. So seeing the advancement that society has gone through in 300 years is so interesting, but also seeing how the magic has been diluted almost over the course of those 300 years is really interesting as well, because I think I mentioned this in one of my other recent vlogs, but they don't have any Mistborn at the point in time that Era 2 is taking place, even though that was a really big part of the first series. Obviously it's called Mistborn. So I just think that's so fascinating, and the fact that you have a series where you're able to see such a large time jump is so fun, and it makes me so intrigued to see what Mistborn Era 3 and 4 are gonna be like, because I know Era 3 is even further in the future. I don't exactly know what time period it's supposed to mimic, like maybe late 20th century? I could be really wrong about that. And then I know Era 4 is supposed to be like space opera kind of vibes. I just love the concept of being able to follow a society and see how it grows and changes over such a long span of time. And I cannot wait for those. I know it's gonna be a while, like a while. But it's gonna be so good when we actually get it, so I can't wait. I think now that is all I have to say about The Last Metal. I'll stop talking about it for now. I'm just like, there's so many things I want to talk about, but. So unfortunately, I'm probably not gonna do any more reading tonight just because I do still have to finish up that final project that I mentioned earlier in the vlog, and I have to write like 3 pages of our paper, so I gotta get on that. I haven't really started doing anything for it yet, which is not good, so I need to work on that tonight, but hopefully I can like finish that up today and tomorrow and still be able to finish these 2 books in this vlog. We'll see. I feel like it should be fine. I do want to work on my puzzle a lot tomorrow, so I'll probably be able to read a lot of The Lost Metal as well. So that's kind of the state of things right now. I'm going to go, and I will probably chat to you guys tomorrow. it is now Tuesday morning. I am in my car this morning. I hope you enjoy some nice ambient noises because it's hot. Had to crack the windows, but I am here with a couple of reading updates because I did not end up really vlogging anything yesterday, but I do have some reading updates because I finished a book and I continued a book and I have good news and bad news. And I feel like you'll probably be able to guess which one is which. So I'm gonna start out with the bad news, which is that I finished A Fate Inked in Blood and I really did not love it and I'm so sad. The thing is, this book started out so strong. I was having a good time. It was really action-packed. I liked the romance. I felt like it was setting up something really fun. And then I got to kind of the middle portion of the book. It wasn't necessarily boring because there were things happening, but I just kind of found myself losing interest a bit as things progressed. And then last night, I was reading the end of this book and I was so mad at how this book ended. I feel like it's a fine ending, but it basically ends like every other fantasy romance book and I'm kind of over it at this point. I feel like the first time you read this trope, you're like, oh, that's really interesting, I like that. And then the second time you read this trope, you're like, I'm seeing it again, but it's still kind of cool. But I feel like this is the 54th time I have read this trope in a fantasy romance book and I just want something different. It's just so predictable. And I was just sad about it. It's also really easy to see coming. Like the whole time the book was progressing, I was like, okay, so this is what we're probably gonna do and I'm gonna be kind of salty if that's what we're probably gonna do. And it was what we did. So I really didn't like that. I also feel like our characters had no character development whatsoever. Freya's whole kind of issue throughout this book is that she keeps putting the blame on herself for things that are completely out of her control. And if she did that a couple of times to kind of set up the issue, and then she started working on that and realizing that not everything is her fault, I would really like that, but I feel like we didn't get that. I feel like throughout the whole book, she just kept taking blame for things that were not her fault in the slightest, and it just kept going, and it really irritated me because it sets up room for good character development, but I feel like this book didn't do it. Maybe the second one will, but at some point, it just got really repetitive, and that irritated me as well. And I also feel like character relationships also could have used some work. I feel like I'm being really negative. I'm sorry, but the romance was definitely insta-love. I knew that was coming because one of you guys told me, which I appreciate, but I just, I liked the romance, but it was insta-love. And then also with character friendships, I feel like there wasn't really much work done. For example, there's this person that Freya meets in this book that something happens to. I'm gonna keep this very general. Something bad happens to them, and Freya is acting like they have been friends for decades with the way that she is reacting to the thing that happened. But I'm like, you have known this person for a week. If she had known them for decades, the way she was acting would be very justified. But the fact that she did not know them for that long, I was like, this just seems odd, out of place. I don't know. I didn't like that either. However, all of those negatives, I do have some positives because I do really like some things in this book. I think the magic was really cool because a lot of people in this world have magic that was given to them by the gods at their birth. And I thought it was really interesting to see how that manifested for certain people, and I liked that a lot, and I would definitely maybe be interested in continuing this series so I could see some more of that. And then I also really liked, kind of going off of that, the Norse-inspired things that were in this book. I feel like I haven't read a ton about Norse mythology. I'm not super knowledgeable about it myself. So I really liked that, and it felt very unique because I feel like I haven't really seen fantasy romance done with Norse mythology, so I thought the mix of that was really interesting. So I guess what I'm saying is that somehow at the same time, this book felt very unique and very different from other fantasy romance, but at the same time, it felt like every other fantasy romance. So, do with that information what you will, I guess. So those are kind of my thoughts on A Fate Inked in Blood. If I was gonna rate it, it would probably be a 3-star, but it's fine. Anyway, I'm kind of running out of time to film this update, so quickly I'm just going to tell you that I've made quite a bit of progress in The Lost Metal. I've made it up to part 3, which is page 244. So I think I'm about halfway through this book. My aim is to maybe finish this today because this is going to be the last day of the vlog, so I'd like to finish it in this vlog. I have a lot of puzzling that I still need to do, so I might listen to that while I work on my puzzle later. I don't have enough time to fully get into my thoughts on this, but I will tell you my thoughts on this after we do what we're about to go do, because I'm going to go to the library this morning. It's about 10 o'clock right now, and I just want to go do some morning library browsing. And then I'm also going to be reading my other volume of Witch Hat, which I'm quite excited about. I feel like it's been a really long time since I went to the library to read. I go to browse a lot, but I don't go to read a lot, so I want to go do that. So those are my plans for this morning. It should be really chill. A little morning at the library sounds lovely, honestly. So let's go. From the library, and I'm here to give you a library haul and then a quick update on Witch Hat Atelier. I haven't fully finished this volume yet. I feel like I always underestimate how long it takes me to read volumes of manga, because I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like, you know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. Like, no. It's not gonna take me 10 or 15 minutes. So I did sit and read about half of this, and then I did a little bit of browsing. I'll give you guys like a full update when I actually finish this book, but for now, it's not done yet. However, I did pick up some things. So first of all, I did pick up 3 more volumes of Witch Hat, which is quite exciting. We have volume, where's 5? Yes, 5. Ooh. Which one is 6? 6. And we have volume 7. This one features one of my favorite little creatures that is in this series. Like, look at the, not the girl. Is that Coco? Not Coco. I'm talking about the little like worm thing. I forgot what they're called, but like they're these fuzzy worms that are so cute. They're adorable. So I'm quite excited for these 3, and I'm hoping that I can read a decent amount of this manga this month. Like, definitely going to try and prioritize that. And then I have also picked up a couple of like actual books. The first one being the next Terry Pratchett book that I'm hopefully going to be reading. Did not notice there's a little cat on this one. That's cute. I haven't finished Weird Sisters yet, but I am hoping to finish that up soon, and then I can get into the 3rd book in the Witches series, which is Witches Abroad. I have no clue what this one is about, but I've been thoroughly enjoying Discworld, so obviously I needed to pick up that one. And then the last thing that I grabbed from the library is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This is a book that me and Elaine are going to be buddy reading in June, maybe? Maybe I picked this up too early. I don't know. But normally we read fantasy or fantasy romance books together, but neither of us have really been super into the last buddy reads that we've been doing, so we decided to completely switch up the genre, and we are going to go for a little bit of a horror book. I don't really know what this one is about either, aside from the fact that it follows final girls, which are obviously the girls that like survive, you know, serial killers? Is it? Or just bad things. But I really enjoyed My Best Friend's Exorcism and The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, also by Grady Hendrix, and I've been meaning to read something else by him for quite a while. And I feel like summer is like a prime time to read like a horror slasher kind of thing. I don't know if this is a slasher necessarily, but considering it follows Final Girls, maybe that's what this is going to kind of devolve into. And this just kind of seems like a fun read to kick off my summer, so I'm quite excited to get into that one. So here are the library pickups for today. I'm quite excited about all of them. But as for my plans today, I'm going to be continuing The Lost Metal, hopefully finishing up The Lost Metal. I feel like I'm in the part of the book right now where I just need to see like what's gonna happen. Like, I know for sure that I want to finish this book today just because I really want to know what's gonna happen. I feel like part 2 has been definitely still kind of setting things up, but we're getting a little bit more action, and the things that it's setting up are so good, and I cannot wait. I just love these characters. I love the plot so far. I love all of the action scenes in this series, and it is just so, so good. So I'm going to be getting into this a little bit this afternoon. I'll probably maybe read a bit physically, but then I know later I do want to go work on my puzzle, so I'll do that as well. So I will chat to you guys, honestly, probably when I finish this book, because as I said a couple of days ago, I do find it rather hard to like talk about what's going on in this book, so I feel like I won't have much to say before I finish the book. So I'm going to go get into this, and I will talk to you guys later. Alrighty, so it is quite a bit later. It's like 11 o'clock now. However, I'm here to finish off this vlog because I have finished The Lost Metal, finished Era 2 of Mistborn, and now I'm sad. I hate finishing series, honestly. I always just feel so devoid of happiness, I guess, when I finish them. I don't know, I've spent like so much time over the last month reading this series and like just having the best time, especially with like books 2 and 3, that now that it's done, I'm like, oh. And also, like, literally who knows when Era 3 of Mistborn is coming out? Like, I'm just sad. However, I must say, I really enjoy this book. I don't think it's my favorite of Era 2, like I was somewhat kind of predicting. I mean, I didn't tell you guys that, but I was kind of predicting that in my head. I feel like there's a lot going on in this book, in kind of the best way, and then kind of not in the best way. But don't get me wrong, I still love this book. I had the best time, but like I can see that there are like issues with it and things that I didn't 100% love, because I feel like this book is absolutely action-packed. It is very like plot forward. There are a lot of things happening in this book. A lot of things that are wrapping up this series, a lot of things that are setting up plot threads for Era 3, a lot of Cosmere connections being made. There were just so many things happening in this book, and there were just some certain plot points that were like introed and then we like moved on, and I was like, can we go back to that for a second? How are you just gonna drop this information so casually? It was shocking. I was shocked. But I feel like my favorite part in this book was all of the Cosmere connections. I knew that there were a lot of Cosmere connections in Era 2, so I expected this to come because there really weren't a ton in the first 3 books. So I was like, okay, obviously this book is like gonna have a lot of them, and it delivered. Like, let me tell you, it delivered. And I'm just so happy that I read this book when I did, and it's one of the kind of later, like, last books that I've read in all of the books that are in the Cosmere, because there are just so many things that you can pick up on in this book, and they're so cool. They're so cool. I love them so much. However, as for some other things that I really liked about this book, I really enjoyed all of the points of view that were used in this book, because in the first few books, you obviously have the 3 main points of view that are Wax, Wayne, and Marasi, and I really liked in this book that Wax and Wayne were together for the majority of the book. I feel like that was really fitting for the last book in the series, and getting to see them fight next to each other, have their great banter going on. Love them so much. I really enjoyed Marasi's point of view as well. I feel like she has had some great character development over the course of this series, but obviously my favorite character, Steris, finally got her own point of view. I don't really know if I think she might have had like a couple of chapters. Yeah, I think she was kind of like featured in their points of view. She might have had a couple of chapters that were hers, but in this book, she got like a devoted POV that was like recurring throughout the book, and I love her so much. She is my favorite character in this book. One of my favorite characters in the Cosmere for sure now. I just love her so much. And I loved what her POV added to this book. I feel like it's a lot less action forward than the other points of view that were happening, but I really liked how it brought us kind of back down to a smaller scale, when in the rest of the book everything has been expanded on. The stakes are really high. There's a lot of things that are kind of like outside influences and forces and so many new things that you're learning. But with Steris's point of view, you're kind of on that small scale, focusing on her while she is trying to help the people of Elendel, while a lot of, big things are going on, and I feel like she was in her element, and I just love watching her work because she's such an interesting character, and the way that she has learned to cope with her anxiety and essentially use it in a way that benefits her and like everybody else, I think is just really cool. And as a person that struggles with anxiety a lot, I just really relate to her in that way, and I just love her so much. Like, I say it all the time, I've said it a lot, but I really do. I just really enjoyed all of the points of view that we got in this book. I really enjoyed a lot of the action kind of scenes and the conflict going on in this book. I feel like the scale of this book is so much bigger than the other books in this series, and it makes sense for this book to be that way because it's the last book in the series, and this book had to do a lot. Like, to end this series, kind of move us forward into the future eras of Mistborn. Although something I do want to say about that is that even though I love this series, I really do, this series definitely feels like a very transitional series. It kind of feels like it was just a way to kind of bridge the gap between Era 1 and Era 3. It just feels less significant than the first series does. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly, because I loved it, and I don't want to say it's like a bad series and absolutely pointless, but it's just interesting. However, something I did enjoy about the time period in which this book was set was that society was at a very pivotal point in like their technological advancements and like just societal advancements in general, and I thought that was really interesting to see kind of how that played into the overall plot of the series, how our characters were dealing with that, and I liked that a lot. But overall, I just really enjoyed The Lost Metal, and I'll absolutely be rereading Era 2 at some point in time. Honestly, out of all of them, I really want to reread The Alloy of Law because I went into that book not expecting to like it, and I think it kind of impacted my reading experience of it a little bit, and I want to give that book what it deserves, you know? So I will be doing a reread of Era 2 at some point. I'm also glad that these are right here so I can put this back with its friends. Also, I did have to crack the spine on The Lost Metal. Don't blame me. You can blame the UK paperbacks because they're stiff as hell. So I've been talking way too long about this book. So we are actually here to end the vlog. So really hope you guys enjoyed this vlog. Let me quickly talk about all of the books that I read, and then I will let you go. So I don't really like have much else to say about the rest of these books. Obviously, like, I read The Lost Metal. I also read volumes 2 and 3 of Witch Hat. I did finish volume 3. And I really liked it. I don't really know if I have, actually I do have things to say about this really quickly. I feel like this volume is definitely where I can see some of those darker influences coming into the series, and I'm quite intrigued to see what the overall vibe of the story is going to be moving forward, because the beginning of the series is very much like, oh, little girls learning, you know, to become witches, super fun in their little atelier setting. But then some things were introduced in volume 3 that I was like, oh, interesting. I'm quite intrigued to see what the scope of this series is. Like, I don't even know what's in store for me, but we're gonna find out because I have so many other volumes to read. And then I talked about it earlier today, but I did finish A Fate Inked in Blood. It's not my favorite. However, I think if a Norse-inspired fantasy romance sounds interesting to you, I would recommend picking it up because I do think it is a well-written book. There were just certain things in it that didn't necessarily work for me. Something, though, in this book's favor is that it did teach me what those Viking-looking boats are with, like, the, what are they, like horse heads on them? They're on the chapter headings. They're called Drakkar. I'm probably pronouncing that so wrong, I'm sorry. But I never knew what they were called. And they are such an important part of like Viking iconography, but I never knew there was like an actual word for it. I was just like, oh yeah, the Viking boats. Yeah, like these things. Also, what are these? Are they horses? Dragons? So there's, you know, one good thing that I got out of this book. Some knowledge. Yeah. Actually, before we go, I did go out and buy a book today, so I wanted to show it to you because I'm quite excited about it. I have no clue what I'm gonna think about it, but I really wanted a summery rom-com type of situation because tomorrow as I'm filming this, is my very last day of the semester. I have a field sales presentation tomorrow. It's gonna be so fun. Also, it's so odd. My presentation and like research paper that I've been writing is about electrolysis. In this book, talks about electrolysis multiple times. I'm like, what are the odds that like the exact thing that I'm doing this final project on would be brought up in this fantasy book that I was reading? I don't know. It felt very serendipitous, I suppose. It was just weird connection. But as for the book I bought, I decided to pick up Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Now look, I know that this is part of a companion series. I think it's like the 3rd book. I honestly don't care enough to like read them in order, and I feel like with most companion series you don't really have to read them in order. Like I'll probably miss some references or whatever to other characters, but like that doesn't really bother me because I just really wanted a summary rom-com, and this one was just staring at me. And I was like, you look good. I've heard good things about this one. And I have been wanting to read a book by Abby Jimenez for quite a while because so many people love her books. I know she writes kind of rom-com style books that do touch on deeper topics, and I know this one does that as well. So as long as I'm aware of it, I can get into it. And I just really wanted a little summary romance book. So obviously this one's perfect. So I'm gonna read this next week probably. I'll probably read this in my next vlog. So with all of that being said, we have officially arrived at the very end of this vlog. So if you guys enjoyed, which again, I really hope you did, I would obviously love to chat with you guys down in the comments. Have you read any of the books that I've read in this video? I'd love to chat about them. Mainly, what did you guys think about A Fate Inked in Blood? I know this is a new release. I would love to know if you guys have read it and what you think about it. Or talk to me about Miss Monera too, because I'm still sad that it's over. Also again, thank you so much to Storiaverse for sponsoring this video. If you guys would like to check out their app, I will have a link to it down in the description. Also before we go, I would like to thank everybody over on my Patreon. If you are ever looking for more content from me, it is always linked down below. And with that, I am actually gonna let you guys go. I will see you guys in my next video.